people have had nightmares about creepy, black, hairy spiders.
A heart-stopping experience that defies man's imagination.
Rick West is a man who goes where average mortals fear to tread. He's kind of an Indiana Jones of the spider world, traveling in planes, boats, and on foot to seek out rare giant spiders in far-flung, dangerous corners of the planet. He's been trapped in quicksand, jumped into piranha-filled rivers, even been kidnapped by warring Indian tribes. Now he's heading off on a series of new adventures to capture tarantulas that have never been filmed. His quest will take him deep into Mexican caves, through the Venezuelan jungle, and even into the heartland of America. Those eight-legged monsters of our nightmares are Rick's little furry friends. More than 30,000 spider species stalk the Earth. Fearsome, multi-eyed, eight-legged predators, always looking for their next meal. Rick's one of the world's leading experts on tarantulas. By documenting new species, even consulting with governments, he hopes to protect the tarantula population and help dispel myths about these hairy giants of the spider world. To his unsuspecting neighbors, blissfully unaware of what lurks inside, Rick just seems like a guy who travels a lot. Not someone with 300 live tarantulas in his basement.
Every time I hear about a new tarantula species, personally I've got to go check it out. I mean, that's part of the allure. It's not just the country itself, but it's the tarantula, and that's what I'm after. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to photograph. And there's that little bit of risk involved that makes me want to go. And that's what gets me charged.
I met Rick about 28 years ago, and he was interested in spiders when I first met him. I don't think I really appreciated what that interest entailed. And it didn't help that I had a terrible fear.
Rick!
An absolutely obsessive fear about spiders.
You better come down here.
My fascination for spiders is very hard on them. Arachnophobia is a very serious fear, and I empathize with people that have it. These are the things that nightmares are made of. They're the things that creep out of shadows. They're the things that people are terrified, the majority of people. This tarantula is from Kenya. It's called a stout-legged tarantula, and it can give you quite a bite, albeit not dangerous, but it would be extremely painful. These are one of the few species that I have that I can't touch. I can't pick it up. I guess I get distractions with family life and calls to the phone. I forget to put a lid on and something escapes.
It's Peter Sprouse, a Texan caver on the phone. A rare blind tarantula has been spotted underground in southern Mexico. Time to get packing. Now, what was that last thing he had to do?
Rick!
Back in its pen, this spider and dozens of others will have to be fed by Lynn while Rick's away. Something she's not that happy about.
Sometimes I just throw the crickets in and scurry away. I don't want to see what happens.
Rick heads down to southern Mexico, meeting up with caver Peter Sprouse to seek out the rare cave tarantula, which has never been caught on videotape.
I'm really interested in seeing this Mexican cave tarantula because it's never been photographed before. It's never been properly examined. It has no eyes, and we know little about it, and I've got to go see it. So I've made an appointment to meet up with him, and we're going to go explore this cave and see if we can find this very rare cave tarantula.
Hey, Peter. Hey, hop on in. Nice to meet you after all this time. How did you do? Great. We better get going. Lots of traffic here. Yeah, really. There are lots and lots of caves left in Mexico that are virtually unexplored.
There's a huge number of caves, all through central Mexico, through the Sierra Madre. Thousands and thousands of caves. You know, it's interesting because when animals become cave adapted, it's almost like reverse evolution. They're losing their eyes, they're slowing down,
Right.
they're becoming a lot simpler.
Well, spiders, by and large, can taste and smell with their feet. Their feet don't smell; they smell with their feet, unlike my feet. But I've never seen a living specimen. I mean, I can't tell you how exciting this is for me to be here.
Going deeper into Oaxaca State, Rick and Peter leave the dry, dusty plains of the north behind and enter a tropical region where sugarcane production is the #1 industry.
That's our mill right there, where the cave's located.
So it's not too much further to go then?
No, we're getting real close now.
Peter has spent years mapping and crawling through the vast network of caves in this region.
This is one of the few caves in Mexico, well, actually in the world, that has blind tarantulas in it. There's maybe 3 or 4 places around Mexico where tarantula spiders have gone underground, become cave adapted, lost their sight.
How far in are these tarantulas?
Last time we found them about 500 meters in, well past the entrance. Get back into the dark zone.
You lead the way.
The group heads out, not knowing how far or deep into the cave they may have to travel to find the spider. It might be a mile down or even further. All Rick knows for sure is subtropical caves like this one always have surprises in store.
When I'm on the trail of a new species and I'm heading into the desert or I'm heading into the jungle, I sort of get mesmerized into a trance and I daydream about what does it look like, what am I going to find, what other perils am I going to come across.
Yeah, this is it. It's a little more overgrown than I remember.
Peter stated the entrance to the cave wasn't going to be so bad, but my God, when I look at the entrance there and I look at the size of me, I'm telling you it's going to be a tight squeeze.
Enter the cavern of unknown horrors. Listen.
What's that noise?
I don't know. It's a little creepy when you first walk into a cave. Your eyes have to adjust and you don't know where to put your hands, where to put your feet, and you don't know what's hiding under rocks and on ledges. Oh sure, that's easy for you, Peter.
Entering this cave, Rick's got to be concerned about more than just insects. Bats carry nasty airborne diseases, and then there's the danger of flash floods.
I'm starting to feel like a tarantula going through a burrow here.
When I approached this cave, I noticed it was a cloudy day. As a matter of fact, it had just rained the day before, and I thought, we're going into a cave. Most of these caves are hollowed out by water. And I have heard of cavers actually being caught in torrential downpours which have swept through the caves and caught them and drowned them.
So this would be like a small waterfall we're coming down.
Yeah. Good thing it's the dry season now.
There's a good passage there. Looks like a good area for these cave tarantulas.
Oh yeah.
From the moment they enter the cave, it's clear that they're not alone. There's a poisonous, wandering spider protecting her eggs. Predatory, tailless whip scorpions creep down the walls looking for their next meal. There's even a species of crayfish living in shallow pools. Completely blind, they've evolved over the centuries to a life of total darkness. Animals are not the only ones to use these caves. The group finds evidence of prehistoric Indians who once gathered water here, on their way to ritual human sacrifices.
That would have been a big pot they used to collect water.
The Mesoamericans believed that tarantulas were conduits to spirits of the underworld. The cave was the entrance to the underworld. So caves, tarantulas, all these aspects played a strong role in Mesoamerican myth. Now, I'll tell you, my 36 years of looking for tarantulas, I had no idea I'd end up crawling on my belly through the mud and bat guano in some cave in Mexico. But you know, this tarantula, I hope I find it, because this better be worth it. This isn't easy, is it?
As the group moves deeper into the dark zone, the cave tarantula remains elusive, a veritable needle in a haystack. Rick spots plenty of other life, and he's hoping that the spider he came to find might be lurking nearby. Now half a mile inside the Mexican cave. Actually finding the tarantula seems to be a long shot. Rick searches along a wall with tiny crevices, a perfect hiding spot for the spider. He spots some movement, but it's just another whip scorpion.
There's some legs sticking out there. I think that's one right there.
Yeah?
Yeah, come see. Look at that. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
What a beauty.
Before we do anything, before we try and catch it, I want to videotape this. These things have never been filmed before, so could you pass me the video camera there?
I'm shaking like a leaf.
I can barely videotape this. I'm so excited. These tarantulas have been down in this cave for hundreds of thousands of years. It's taken them that long to evolve into this very pallid, eyeless. I can't see any eye tubercle on her. She's got very long, thin legs.
Think you can catch him back in that crack there?
I think so. 20 years, I'm not gonna blow it. Oh, look at my hands. I can't, I've got the damn thing. Oh, look at that. Oh, that is a beautiful specimen. It's not that excitable either. Let's see if we can hold it. Oh, what a beautiful specimen. Look at that. This is one of the rarest tarantulas in the world. I've been wanting to find this for 20 years. And I'm really grateful that you brought me here, Peter. Look at that. Oh yeah. Where'd she go?
She's running back.
Just a slight nudge on the back.
Going down your arm now.
Push her back up.
I can't stand it. I'm getting out of here.
That's too close for comfort. It's right next to the old family jewels.
Corralling the little poisonous sucker back into the bottle is a little more than Rick bargained for. Smaller and lighter than their daylight cousins, this tarantula is perfectly adapted for darting up and down the walls after crickets. You don't find such a rare species every day, so with one in the bottle, Rick goes off in search of others.
And I'm hoping that we'll find more. The adrenaline is flowing now. I just have to see more and see if these get bigger.
There's burrows along here. It's very dry up here. A lot of burrows. I saw remains of a, looks like a male tarantula there, so it's got to be, there's another piece of leg there.
The trail of male body parts tells Rick there may be a burrowing female nearby. Like their daylight cousins, male tarantulas tend to have a very short lifespan, as the mating process is a nasty affair. Once the bigger female has mated, she will eat her partner if he doesn't hit the trail right away. As a result, males rarely live past 2 or 3 years, while amongst some species, female tarantulas can live as long as 30 years.
There's a specimen. Look at that. Oh, that is an adult female sitting in the burrow. And that is one of the cave tarantulas. Long, thin legs. That is a nice spider.
Waiting for a cricket to come by for dinner.
That's right.
gets away, and Rick's got to dig her out of a tight location.
It's about a 15-foot drop to the bottom. I've got cuts and scratches.
All right, I got her. Oh, look at that. That is a nice spider. That's also an adult female. I'd say leg span is about 5 inches. That's a good size. That's another good catch.
Having confirmed the existence of Spelopelma ridelli, the cave tarantula, Rick decides to let one of the 2 specimens go and donate the other to the National University in Mexico City, where it can be studied. Now, to get out of the cave.
I think adventure overpowers common sense sometimes. I'm just a kid at heart, and anything to get out into the bush, into the wild, to look for tarantulas. And that's what gets me charged.
The call to adventure brings Rick down to Venezuela, where an old friend, Juan Carlos, has a report of an unusual metallic blue tarantula.
It was nice seeing you again, Juan Carlos. It's been, what, 8 years now? 8 years since I
Juan Carlos has invited Rick to join him on a journey to the remote Paraguana Peninsula, a unique desert environment on Venezuela's Caribbean coast.
6-hour drive before nightfall, so we've got to get going. There's a little place that I've been told about that has a very beautiful tarantula that I know something about. It's an electric blue colored tarantula with orange abdomen. It lives in the sand dunes and the desert. I've never seen any photographs of it other than in captivity. So this is exciting for me.
Driving mile after mile through a hot, shifting landscape, Rick's determined to locate this big spider, a sapphire blue tarantula, which exists nowhere else on Earth. Arriving late in the day, Rick checks out a grassy, dune-covered area for any sign of the blue tarantula.
I'd heard very little about these blue tarantulas. Initially, I'd heard that they lived in trees in very elaborate silk sock-like retreats. Nobody could tell me how these spiders lived, so I had to see for myself.
In the fading light, with no spiders in hand, Rick makes a final inspection of the dune area.
Holy smoke! This is a huge, huge rattlesnake. That is one big boy. This is a beauty. This is one of the local rattlesnakes. These rattlesnakes in this region close to this town, I've been told, have put about 130 people in the hospital last year alone. That rattlesnake has got to be as thick as my arm. This snake has come out at dusk to hunt, and this is one of the reasons why at night you've got to be extremely careful walking around here. These dunes are riddled with burrows. There's lots of rodents, lots of good food, and this is why he's out. Now that would put me into the hospital. And if my wife sees me playing with this, she's going to really be angry that I was playing with this by myself. So I'm not going to play with it, I'm not going to pick it up, just going to leave it be, let it go about its business, have a nice little rodent for dinner, something like that, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. This is when the desert comes alive. Hardly anything moves during the day because they're hiding from the heat. And this is the best time to be out in the desert, and the creepiest time.
Hoping he's seen his share of snakes on this trip, Rick searches the desert shadows for the real prize, the elusive blue tarantula, rarely seen and never filmed.
There's one. You see it? That is another very nice tarantula. and I don't see a burrow within 10 feet of it.
In the cool of the night, these tarantulas hunt along the desert floor, waiting for cockroaches or maybe a small lizard to come along. For the most part, other animals prefer to leave tarantulas alone. But here in South America, the giant 3-inch Pepsis wasp is a ferocious predator. It will attack a tarantula, and once it has immobilized the spider, plant an egg on its body. In one of nature's crueler acts, the wasp maggot will eat the paralyzed tarantula from the inside out until the young wasp is ready to hatch.
I'm going to see if I can pick this spider and bring it out into the open where you can have a better look at the coloration. It is beautiful in the light. Well, that's a little close and personal, but I'll see if I can get her out into the open. That is a beautiful tarantula.
You know, these spiders have been on the planet for 25 million years, and here I am today, standing here with this very primitive spider. Maybe he doesn't think he's looking at me, but I'm certainly looking at him. And it's a very intimate moment. It's hard to describe.
If tarantulas are nocturnal animals, why are they so brightly colored? Why are they so beautifully patterned? Who can see them in the dark? Unless you happen by with a flashlight.
The spider's shocking blue color may be a warning to predators to stay away, but no one knows for sure.
I'd kiss it, but I think my wife would get jealous. Well, this has been very successful.
While finding the blue tarantula has been a dream come true, he still hasn't seen any den sites. With a good idea of where they live, Rick wants to return in the daylight to locate the actual homes of the blue tarantula. The next morning brings another searing hot day on the trail. Rick returns to the site of last night's discoveries, but the spiders have disappeared, and now he's looking for telltale tarantula webbing.
Yeah, there's a burrow under this tree right here. These are good areas, but I don't know what type of tarantula burrow. It looks like tarantula silk, so very difficult place to get into. The tarantula's in there, and it's a blue tarantula. This is great. There she comes. Look at that. What a beautiful specimen. She's obviously very defensive about her burrow. Look at those colors. That is stunning. That is a big female too. She'll sit in that position for about half an hour defending her burrow, and I don't want to tear it apart. It's obviously taken her a long time to build that silk burrow, and in this area it's not easy to just start all over again at that life stage, so I'm just going to back off and just leave her and see if we can find some others.
So Rick has solved the riddle of the blue tarantula's homes. They're not in the branches as first thought, but in small dens at the base of trees. Rick leaves the Parawana Peninsula with a new insight into this rare and beautiful spider, found only here in this remote Venezuelan desert. Back in Caracas, Rick's got to break the news to Lynn that he's staying on an extra week. His guide, Juan Carlos, has just tracked down giant tarantulas the size of dinner plates, only a 14-hour drive from here.
You can just keep feeding the spiders a little longer. I hope they're not giving you any trouble. Now I've got to go down to the Piro village. Gracias. That was Juan Carlos bringing some water for me. It's really hot here. I'll call you again. Love you.
Once again, lured away by the call of giant spiders, Rick heads south, crossing the mighty Orinoco River to visit an Indian village on the edge of the rainforest.
We're going down to southern Venezuela to the Piaroa community. There's 2 species of tarantula here that are the monsters of the tarantula world. When they come up out of the ground for the first time and spread their legs, you think, when is it going to stop coming out of the ground? It's the exploration that's the most exciting part. Unfortunately, we both leave our wives behind, and to me that's great.
Driving into the very fringes of the Amazon rainforest, Rick and Juan Carlos are drawing ever closer to the home of the bird spiders, the world's largest tarantulas. Rick and Juan Carlos arrive at the Indian village. The Piaroa are an ancient people, deeply connected to this land.
The Piaroa Indians are a very unique group of people that live in central and southern Venezuela, and they still use blowguns to hunt. They still make fire the old method by rubbing 2 sticks together, for lack of a better word. It really is like going back into the Stone Age.
For centuries, the Piaroa have walked these jungle trails, hunting for animals with their blowguns. In a dry land where game is not that plentiful, monkeys or small birds will provide much-needed sustenance.
They're very cat-like. They have excellent acute hearing and eyesight, and these fellows just slip through like shadows. It's amazing to be with them and watch them hunt.
When birds and monkeys disappear and pickings are slim, the Piaroa go after another kind of creature normally revered by the tribe: giant tarantulas. These 12-inch monsters of the spider world live in deep underground burrows, laying in wait for unsuspecting prey. Unlike garden variety spiders, tarantulas do not support themselves on webs or trap bugs in them. This tarantula silk is placed at the entrance of dens and tree openings, just inches from the entrance. The tarantula can feel tiny movements on the web surface. But not all hunting is done this way. Tree-dwelling tarantulas, sometimes called bird-eating spiders, rely on a more direct approach. Birds are only part of these jungle spiders' diet. They eat lizards, frogs, and even venomous snakes up to 2 feet long. The spider's poisonous fangs sink into the hapless reptile, killing it so it can be dragged away and the tarantula's digestive juices can dissolve the meal into an edible protein shake. The Piaroa hunters are looking for giant tarantula burrows. They move slowly since the spiders can detect vibrations and move deeper into the ground.
When the Piaroa find a large burrow and it looks like it's occupied, they will pick off a vine that's about 2 feet long, tie a knot in the end, and start to twiddle it down the burrow. It's like simulating a struggling insect. If the tarantula does not come out of its burrow, then they've got to resort to digging it up, and it's quite something to watch them dig them up.
The big tarantula's out, but he's got different plans. The live spiders are wrapped in leaves for easy transport back to camp.
Looks like Jesus and Danielle brought me 2 large tarantulas here, and hopefully they'll take me into the forest tomorrow to find more. This is a fair-sized female, actually, but I know there's bigger ones in the forest, and With any luck, we're going to find some.
With instructions from the Piaroa about another den site, Rick heads into the jungle to tackle one of the big spiders himself.
They told me that there were other burrows. There was one that they had tried earlier and they couldn't get it out. So they've asked if I'd be interested in trying to dig it out myself. This burrow has got to be about 4 inches across. And you can tell it's a giant tarantula burrow by the silk all around the entrance. So this is occupied. There she is, and she's a big one. Those fangs could just get a hold of me, they would do their business. She's really irritated. She's scraping her rear legs over the top of her abdomen, which breaks off thousands of irritating hairs, and they're sculpted like the sting of a bee. So they call them urticating hairs because they get into the pores of your skin and they cause a great rash and irritation. They're used as protection against mammals that come to prey on them, such as coatimundi, sometimes birds.
Rick lets this one go, knowing what's in store for tarantulas captured by the Indians. He's been invited the next day to join them in a traditional tarantula feast. To these Venezuelan Indians, the spider is much more than a potential meal. Because it lives underground, they believe it is a messenger of the dead. Rick has been invited to watch this sacred ceremony as the shaman, using a snuff-like drug, communicates with his ancestors through the giant tarantula.
The shaman in his own mind is asking questions of the spider. The spider is in fact obtaining the knowledge and information and the answer from the ancestors and from the spirit world and bringing that information to the shaman. It's emotional. They trust me. They've brought me into their culture and they've shown me something that has taken place for thousands of years.
The next morning, the group heads out on a journey to an ancient burial cave where the Indians will eat the giant tarantulas they have caught. To get there, they must pass over a brutally hot landscape to the valley of their ancestors.
I don't know how these guys can stand it in their bare feet. This rock is about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Unbelievable.
Rock paintings, thousands of years old, decorate the walls of the burial cave. Eating the spiders here, in the presence of their dead ancestors, suggests the great reverence the Piaroa have for these tarantulas.
This is a very sacred place that they've brought me to eat these tarantulas. I mean, that's bizarre enough. It's too much to take in one day. It really is. This is their culture. This is their way of life. This is what they've done for thousands of years. And when they offer you a tarantula to eat, it's like eating maybe your pet dog or something. I'm going to have to do it because I don't want to offend the chief or the shaman. You can see the meat is nice and white, and although this may appear to be disgusting, it would be no different than if I had friends over up on the coast and had them over for a crab feed. Puts a chill down my back, I'll tell you. tarantulas have a high percent of protein per body weight. They're probably one of the most highly nutritious food items in the rainforest. Are you ready for this?
After you, my friend.
Thanks. Gracias. So, here goes nothing. Actually, it's not bad. It tastes sort of like prawn meat if you get past the little smoky barbecue flavor. The only thing I miss is barbecue sauce.
Not bad at all.
Gracias. Now I understand that this is the final process to the tarantula meal. These are the fangs. As you can see, they're about ½ inch.
At least.
And we use them as toothpicks. And they work very well. I feel like I have a commonality with Pierrot. They study tarantulas in a spiritual way. I study tarantulas in a scientific way. And I truly hope that they are able to hang on to their identity and continue on in their culture. I've got to stop eating tarantulas.
Tarantulas on the loose in Florida? A Mexican species was introduced here by pet owners just south of Orlando in the mid-1990s. Now Rick's off to investigate this phenomenon and see just what's been hatching. Wherever tarantulas show up, Rick West is not far behind, even here in Florida.
Pet owners took some of these pregnant females and even egg sacs and spiderlings and released them out along the dikes near citrus groves.
Rick's a consultant to the Florida Department of Agriculture, and he decides on a stopover. He wants to look into the fate of these big spiders and the public reaction to them.
Rick, this is one of the red rumps that's causing all the excitement.
This is a beautiful spider.
The first specimen of the Mexican red rump was discovered by citrus workers in an orchard near Fort Pierce. It was brought to one of our personnel who brought it to Gainesville for identification.
This is probably the first time I think that it's ever been found east of the Mississippi River, any kind of tarantula.
I was driving down the road and I seen the big spider. I knew it was a tarantula, but I didn't know what kind. So I got out and got a styrofoam cup and scooped the spider up. And I've never seen a spider that big here in Florida. Just walking around, and I wanted to get it and bring it to the shop and show everyone.
The first one I found was under some of the trees over there, and I dug down in the burrow, and then I saw these little feet sticking out, and I was used to some of these smaller spiders. And then I stuck something down in there, and this thing jumps out at me, and I thought, wow, that's the biggest spider I've ever seen in Florida.
Rick wastes no time in going on a hunt for these red-rumped tarantulas. This dike in an abandoned orange grove is supposed to be a prime tarantula breeding ground.
Got that ready.
Okay.
The area along these dikes between the citrus groves is an excellent habitat. I mean, the sand, the clay soil, it's identical to what you would find in Mexico and down in Belize where this species occurs. But that's obviously Brachypelma vagans, or the Mexican red rump tarantula in Florida.
Fire ants, another introduced species, have been attacking humans and livestock here for years. Rick's got to dodge these nasty stinging ants to dig out the next tarantula.
Yes, I see it right there. Yes, okay. It's right there.
And the more Rick looks, the more big spiders keep showing up. There seems to be a tarantula every 20 yards along the
It
dock.
must be obviously reproducing quite successfully around here.
So it's a bit more active than the other one, too. Of course,
Yeah.
it's been bit by the...
Yeah, it's got a few of these fire ants on it.
Right.
Joe Noelke, a local grove owner, was among the first to feel an economic impact from the invasion of the giant spiders.
Well, the workers at first they thought they were rats because they were, running under the trees, and then they found out later it's just a big spider, and that it doesn't take much to scare them. So,
Facing a panicking labor force who were leaving in droves, Joe did what just about anyone would. He called the government to fix the problem.
So we initially tried to eradicate it, but due to the fact that it was found in canal banks surrounding the orchard, it was very difficult both to find the burrows and to administer chemicals to eradicate the tarantulas.
I sprayed some sulfur into the burrows, and that didn't seem to do any good. It just seemed to make them mad.
And the tarantulas keep coming.
It's another juvenile tarantula, red rump.
So with known natural enemies, and with the government deciding not to use pesticides anymore, from what I've heard locally here, the tarantula seems to be spreading.
As the tarantulas continue to quietly multiply, most of the locals remain pretty oblivious. That is, until you mention the words big spider.
I'm just not real crazy about things that crawl. And they just bother me. I've had them drop on me out of trees, and it just absolutely scares me to death.
Facing this apparent tarantula epidemic and possible public backlash, Rick decides a little public education is in order.
So those two little claws come in and out like the claws of a cat.
Now that one would actually bite you?
I've never been bitten in about 34 years.
No.
Feels like a mouse, though, doesn't it?
It's kind of like furry feeling like.
It was a good feeling to know that I was sort of the ambassador and spoke up for the tarantula, and leaving these people with a totally different attitude toward the tarantula in their area.
There you go.
I want to keep him.
I don't think so. You be going back to...
So, Rick leaves the people of Florida a little more wary, but a lot wiser. Traveling the world, Rick will continue to collect and classify species, educating people everywhere about these giant spiders. Who knows, if enough people get to handle them, maybe one day they won't be quite so frightened by the eight-legged, hairy monsters of their nightmares.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough.
And in the meantime, Rick and Lynn will continue to share their home with some high-maintenance guests, 300 tarantulas, always looking for their next meal.